Okay, good morning. So the good news is there's a story today. If we read the prophets, sometimes there's poetry. Today is a very straightforward story, so that's good. Of course, there's always deeper meaning and there's always symbolism, which we'll try to address. But there's also a basic story, and the story is the story of the spies that Joshua sends. So in the portion of the Torah, we read about the spies that Moses sends to the land of Israel. And of course, that's a terrible debacle. That doesn't work. 10 of the spies come back and they give a negative report. They say, well, the land is okay, the land is good, but ultimately, we're not going to be able to conquer the land. And they dissuade the people from wanting to enter the land. And the people cry and they say, why did you bring us here? And God says, okay, if you don't want to go to Israel, the decree is that they're going to stay in the desert for 40 years. Terrible idea. 40 years later, Moses passes away. Joshua takes over. Joshua, they're about to cross the Jordan and enter the land of Israel. And Joshua sends spies. And of course, the question is, why is Joshua sending spies if the spies failed so miserably the first time around? Now, Joshua happens to be one of the 12 spies that Moses sent. And Joshua was one of the 2 spies that remained loyal to the land of Israel, to Moses and to God. So Joshua firsthand saw how 10 of the spies turn negative and turn sour about the Jewish people, about the land of Israel, and dissuaded the Jewish people. So the question becomes, why does Joshua decide to send spies again? And that is an interesting question. Well, one interesting point is that immediately the Torah tells you a difference and an important change. In other words, the prophets, the book of Joshua, tells you an important change in between Moshe's spies and Joshua's spies. And we'll go straight in. I'll give you this introduction, and then we'll read the entire story. I guess we'll read the story, right? It's a little bit long. We'll read the story, and then we will try to offer a little bit of commentary. Okay, so if you want to, let's read the first verse. And Joshua the son of Nun sent 2 men out of the Shittim to spy secretly, saying, go see the land and Jericho. And they went and came to the house of an innkeeper named Rachav, and they lay there. Okay, so the first thing you see, it says that they sent 2 men out of Shittim to spy secretly. Cheresh. Cheresh means silently. Now, of course, the question becomes, why do you have to send spies to spy secretly? If they don't know that they're supposed to spy secretly, then they're in the wrong business. They should go into advertising, not into espionage. So it's obvious that it's secretly, that it's quiet. If you're a spy, you're going to be quiet. So some commentators explain that what's really happening here is silent means silent from the Jewish people. The problem with what Moshe did, and why he did is another story, but the danger of Moshe's spies is that everybody knew that the spies are being sent. And in fact, the spies came back and they gave the report to the people. Now, why are the people getting the report? If you're the military leader, you need to send spies. Nobody has to know that you sent the spies. Nobody has to know that the spies came back. You, the person making the decision, you have the intelligence. So Joshua sends 2 people, not 12 people. In other words, not a representative of every tribe, because they weren't dispatched by the people. They were dispatched by Joshua. That's why it worked out. Also, it doesn't say who they are. I mean, the sages offer names, but it doesn't say who they are. They're anonymous. Why are they anonymous? Because that's the way they should be. They're spies. Nobody should know about them. And not just the people where they're going, but the people where they're from. The Jewish people don't have to know spies have been sent, and therefore Joshua could be more in control of their report. So that's the first point, and that's a very big difference. Who are the spies being sent on behalf of? Who are they giving their report back to? With Moshe's spies, they came and gave back their report to the people. Here, they're giving back their report to Joshua. Okay, so this version of the translation is not the great one. It says they come to Jericho. The first thing what happens? And they came to the house of an innkeeper named Rachav. Innkeeper is not the most straightforward translation. Zonah could be an innkeeper, maybe, perhaps, maybe, but the more straightforward interpretation is that Zonah is a harlot. her name was Rachav, they come to the house of the harlot. Why? Because that's where people go. And if you don't know, everyone's anonymous there, hopefully. And that's a good place to blend in. That's where they go. They go and they lay there. And it was told to the king of Jericho, saying, behold, men have come there this night from the children of Israel to search the land. So the news gets out. How does the news get out? Well, there are different theories. Either one theory is that the people of Jericho are very afraid of the Jewish people. So their counterintelligence is high. And even though the spies go to a place where seemingly nobody knows where they are, they're going to a harlot's home, but people are so afraid of the Jewish people, so they're on the lookout, and the king of Jericho finds out. Another interpretation I read from a contemporary scholar, not religious or anything, he says, well, of course it was told to the king of Jericho. Who told the king of Jericho? Of course, it was Rachav herself, as we will see later, that she is the one who benefits from protecting the two spies. So maybe she herself let it known to the king of Jericho. Perhaps that's just a theory. Now you get to verse 3. And the king of Jericho sent to Rachav, saying, bring forth the men who have come to you, that they have entered your house, for they have come to search out the entire land. Now the woman had taken the two men and had hidden them. And she said, indeed, the men came to me, but I did not know from where they were. And it was time to close the gate at darkness. And the men went out. I do not know where they went. Pursue after them quickly, for you will overtake them. She says, you have no chance. You have no, the people, these two men, they came to my house indeed, but they left the city. Now, if you keep searching my house, you're going to lose them. So go chase them immediately. And that's exactly what they do. Verse 6, and she had brought them up to the roof, and she hid them with the stalks of flax, and she had laid arranged upon the roof. And the men pursued them. In other words, the king's people, verse 7, the king's people allegedly pursue the alleged spies who left. But of course, the spies were still in Rachav's house. And the men pursue them in the direction of the Jordan, meaning the Jordan River, to the fords. And as soon as the pursuers have gone out, they shut the gate. In other words, they locked the gate of the city and they sent out the pursuers. And before they were asleep, they, as in the spies, she came up to them upon the roof. And she said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of you. For we heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of the Jordan, Sichon and Og, whom you completely destroyed. Verse 11, and as soon as we heard, our hearts melted, nor did there remain any more spirit in any man because of you. In other words, everybody is frightened. For the Lord your God, he is the God of heaven above and the earth below. And now I pray, swear to me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness to my father's house and give me a true token of truth. In other words, what is she asking for? And you shall preserve alive my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters and all that they have, and you shall deliver our lives from death. Okay, so now she's got a good deal. She says, I saved you, so you have to save my entire extended family. And the men answered her, our life for yours. Verse 14. If you will not tell this our discussion, and it shall be when the Lord gives us the land, that we will deal with you with kindness and truth. And she let them down by the rope through the window, and her house was in the town wall, and she dwelt in the wall. In other words, her house was built into the wall of the city so she could let them out through the window. And she said to them, go to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days until the pursuers return. And afterwards, you will go your way. She's smart. She says, don't go straight to the Jordan. That's where the pursuers are looking for you. You go to the side, you go to the mountain, wait there for 3 days. After 3 days, then you go to the Jordan. Now you would expect, if you're the two spies, you are now layered out the window, you pick up your feet and you disappear. No. Now there's this strange conversation. Think of her in the window. They're on the outside the city on the floor, and they're screaming on the top of their lungs, having a conversation. What do they tell her? Verse 17. And the men said to her, we will be blameless of this your oath, which you made us swear. In other words, if you don't follow the rules, we're not going to be responsible. And it shall be, verse 18, behold, when we come into the land, you shall bind this line of scarlet thread in the window by which you let us down. And you shall bring your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household home to you. And it shall be that whoever shall go out of the doors of your house outside, his blood shall be upon his head. In other words, if anyone steps out of your house and gets killed, it's not our guilt, it's their guilt. That's the Bible says that if your blood is on your head, meaning it's your problem that you get killed. And we will be blameless, and that whoever shall be with you in the house, his blood shall be upon our head, if any hand be upon him. In other words, if anyone who's in your house gets hurt, it's our fault. And if you tell this our discussion, then we will be blameless of your oath which you have made us swear. And she said, according to your word, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed. And she bound the scarlet line in the window. And they went and they came to the mountain and stayed there for 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, but they did not find them. And the 2 men returned and descended from the mountain and crossed over and came to Joshua the son of Nun and told him all that happened to them. And they said to Joshua, for the Lord had delivered into our hands all the land, and also the inhabitants of the country have melted away because of us. Okay. So this is the story. Of course, any comments or questions on the story are welcome. What's interesting here is that Joshua sends, there are many things interesting. Well, we'll start with one. Joshua, the verse says, Joshua sent two spies secretly. We don't know who they are. Why don't we know who they are? Because they're not important for the story, or because these people are good at what they do. They are spies and they know how to spy. And because they know how to spy, they know what's important. Joshua tells them, go. If you look at it, interesting, they went, go see the land and Jericho. Did they see the land and Jericho? Not really. They saw the little patch of land that, there's a few miles between the Jordan and Jericho. And then they saw Jericho, but in Jericho, they didn't even walk down the streets. They came to one house. They came to the harlot at the door, at the gate of the city, and slept in her house. They didn't see the entire Jericho. But then they come back because they had to escape. So one way to look at it, perhaps, and say that maybe they failed. They didn't see the land. They didn't see Jericho. But another way to look at it is, no, maybe they did succeed, because what were they looking to do? They're looking to understand what is the morale of the enemy. If you're going to war, more important than knowing exactly how much power, how much physical strength and physical might the enemy has, you want to know what is their morale, what's their willingness to fight. Are they afraid? Are they not afraid? And that's the most important question. And that's what they want to find out. And therefore, just going to the harlot is already enough, because she traffics in enough information, enough people know about, she meets enough important people, and she already knows, she can tell them what she does tell them at the end, which is, let's find the verse. She says everybody is frightened. And that's what she knows, and that's what she tells them. So that's one point. It's the question is, what's the purpose of the sending spies? Is it, sometimes it's to know the topography, sometimes it's to know the might. Here it seems that it was to know whether or not the people are afraid, how is their morale, and they've come back with a good report that people are afraid. Okay, that's one point. There's so many ways to think about this. We'll get to the spiritual and moral part in a minute. Let's go to the legal part. Okay, legal part. They make a deal. The deal is, she says, I saved you. You saved my family. She's got a good deal. Some of the scholars say, if you go to Jericho today and someone tells you, save my whole family, be careful. My whole family could be half of Jericho, right? Everybody's interrelated. It's a very tribal society. Everybody's married to everybody. Who knows how many people she saved, but that's another story. They make a deal. She says, save everybody, she'll save my family. She makes them take an oath in 12, and they agree in 13 and 14. Verse 14, and the men answered her, our life is for yours, if you will not tell this our discussion, and shall be when the Lord gives us the land, that we will deal with you with kindness and truth. So that's beautiful. They have a deal. She lowers them out the window, and then she tells them, run away. And after she lowers them out the window, the 17, they start negotiating again. They start reiterating the deal. Now, the question is, why are they reiterating the deal? They already said the deal. And then, like I said earlier, what they should be doing is running away, trying to hide, not being on the outside of the city at the bottom, talking at night, so it's quiet, and talking that the lady in the window should hear. Probably the neighbors could hear too, and they're negotiating. Why are they negotiating again? Why are they reiterating every detail of the deal? So there's an interesting commentary. I don't know if everyone agrees, an interesting commentary that says as follows. If you read verse 17, the men said to her, we will be blameless of this your oath, which you made us swear. The way it's translated is we will be blameless if you don't keep the deal. But if you read this verse literally, it reads as follows. And the men said to her, we are clean from the oath which you made us swear. In other words, in 17, what the spies are saying, we have no obligation to you. The oath we swore in your house is meaningless. How so? Well, this is very interesting. If you're a lawyer, you're going to like this. If you're not a lawyer, you're not going to like this. Why are they meaningless? Because we swore under duress. We're in your house. You have the people. We have the king of Jericho sending his people to find us. Our life is in your hands. If we don't agree with you, you're going to call the Secret Service again. You're going to call the FBI, and they're going to come and arrest us. So, of course, we make an oath to save our lives, but it's under duress. So in verse 17, the spies are giving this woman a class in Jewish law. And they say, by the way, I just want to tell you that the oath we gave while we were in your house with a gun to our head is worthless. We don't owe you anything. We could turn around and we're not going to be obligated. However, they make the oath again when they're outside the house, out of danger, when they could run away, when they're not under duress. And that's when that oath is the oath that's binding, right? And that explains why in 17, 18, 19, 20, they reiterate the entire oath, which they already said. Outside the city, they say we are obligated, not because the oath that we, not because of the oath that we promised while in your house, but because of the oath we're giving you right now, which is not under duress. Now, this is a legal point. You may like it, you may not like it, legal point, but this ties into the broader story of what's happening here, at least according to some opinions. So we're going to tie this question into the broader question. But that's so far. So far we discussed what's the purpose of, we want to evaluate, was this a success? Remember, they came to town. If you were sent to spy and you come to town and you're there for 10 minutes and the Secret Service find out about you and you're forced to flee, you can read this as a failure, but you can read it as a success depending on what the purpose of the mission is. If the purpose is the mission is to figure out the morality of people, they were successful, because they went straight to the harlot, and the harlot knows everything. The Talmud says that she's a very important harlot. All the important people in town come to her, so she knows she's got the feel about the political and military leadership of the town. And then the second point is, they say, yes, we're going to make you, we're loyal to you, but this is the new oath. And like I said, that's the legal angle. And in a minute, I'll try to explain how this ties into the moral of the story. At least some of the morals of the story. So that's for that. Go ahead. It looks like anybody wants to ask a question, please go ahead.
I have a quick question, sincere question. Why do they have a need to explain to her that the oath is not valid? It's not valid, go back, and you don't owe her anything.
That's a good question. So the question is, there's twofold to your question. First of all, why did they save her? right? They had no obligation. That's the first question. Second question, if they want to save her because for whatever reason they like her because she was nice to them and she treated them nicely, why did they need to give her all the legalese? She's just a harlot. She didn't go to law school. Why does she have to say, you want to save her, save her? Why do you have to say, well, oh, by the way, I'm giving an oath now, but remember, the other oath wasn't valid. This oath is valid, as if she cares, right? You think she cares if she's being saved because of the first oath or the second oath? She doesn't care. She's not a lawyer, right? So that's really the question. So you could say, well, it's for the reader. The Jews should know. Jews are always looking to put law to complicate everything. So whoever wrote the story, John, when the story was written, they put in this legal nugget. But no, there's a broader message, and that's really what we're trying to get at. So that's a good question. Let's see if we can address that. Okay, so let's think about the image. The people come to, this is the opening book of the book of Joshua. This is the first time the people in 40 years, this is their first interaction with the land of Israel. It's Joshua chapter 2. This is right in the beginning. The first thing you read about, they come to Jericho. The first story you read about is that they come about and meet Rachav the harlot. First thing you hear about a harlot. That's the sort of the first impression of the land of Israel. Okay, so is there a broader message here? So there's all kinds of messages, and I'm going to try to address at least 2 or 3 of them, but let's start from one point. One point here is that some people believe what's happening here is the Torah is trying to give us a contrast between the society of Jericho and Israel more broadly and the culture of the Jewish people. And the way it's trying to contrast that is with the question of loyalty. And the question of loyalty, the contrast, here you have a harlot. A harlot is the opposite of loyalty, right? It's the opposite of loyalty to family, to loyalty to family, and loyalty to one specific person. So a harlot represents the opposite of loyalty. If you say the first story that we hear about, they come to Jericho and the first place they run into is the harlot, it means that this harlot is the image the Torah wants you to have of the city of Jericho, of that culture. So this is a culture where there's no loyalty. Now, Rachav, she's going to be saved, and we'll see later what the rabbis do with Rachav. I'll give you the spoiler alert right now. The rabbis say Rachav converts to Judaism, this harlot, she converts to Judaism, and who does she marry? Lo and behold, only the rabbis can come up with this. The rabbis say that she marries Joshua, and she has children, no boys but girls, and many of the greatest Jewish prophets descend, Yecheskel, Jeremiah, descend from Rachav and Joshua. Totally strange story. But why are the rabbis saying this? Because the rabbis are trying to say this is really what the story is trying to tell you. So here you have a woman who's a harlot. She's not loyal. Why is she not loyal? You could say blame the harlot. No, don't blame the harlot. Blame the culture. This is a culture of exploitation. Now, what does Rachav see in the Jewish culture that makes the Jewish culture attractive to her? So you could say, well, she just thinks she wants to align with herself with the winners, and that's why she says, oh, I want to be on your side. Everyone's afraid of you. I'm going to try to be on your side. That's one way to look at it. But you could see here, no, there's a question of loyalty. Look, all of a sudden, she's not just thinking about herself, she's thinking about her extended family, right? So you see, Rachav does have loyalty within her, and therefore Rachav respects the culture of the Jewish people, which is loyal. Now, what's happening here is that the Jewish people, the spies want to have this loyalty to Rachav because they save her. But what they're trying to emphasize to her, and the reason why they say, look, we're giving you the vow, even though we don't have to. And Zach says, so why do you have to tell them? Why are you giving them the speech? What the story is trying to do and what the spies are trying to do is trying to portray that indeed they want her to understand that they're saving her not because of a legal obligation. So why are they taking the second oath? Because of loyalty. And perhaps that is what attracted Rachav to the Jewish culture to begin with. And this is sort of reinforcing that question of loyalty and contrasting that to the culture of Jericho and to the culture which Rachav comes from. So that is just sort of putting that legal angle in perspective. But it's just fascinating to see that what the rabbis see with the story. It's so easy to say, oh, this woman, she's not loyal. She's not loyal to her family. She's not loyal to her native people. She is a traitor in a sense. But that's not the way the rabbis see it. The rabbis see it and say that this was a person that even if she becomes a harlot, it was because of the circumstances. It wasn't because of her personality. She was a moral person. She wanted to align herself with morality. And that's why, and that's why ultimately she ends up joining the Jewish people, marrying Joshua and giving birth to, and some of the greatest prophets descend from her. Now, if you look through the verses, you could see the verses highlighting this point. For example, verse 12, and now I pray, swear to me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness to my father's house and give me a sign of truth. Okay, what's truth? What's truth? Truth is loyalty, right? Look at verse 14. And it shall be when the Lord gives us the land, and we will deal with you with kindness and truth. Say kindness. What's the emphasis? Truth. You keep reading the story and you keep reading the term of truth. And the idea here is it's a question of highlighting the loyalty of the Jewish people to Rachav. And that's probably because the reason why she wants to align with the Jewish people is more than just to save herself physically, but it's because she values the culture, and the culture is a culture of loyalty. And that's emphasized by the fact we did not save you because we had to, because you forced us to swear. We saved you because our loyalty to you, because of the kindness, and we were not obligated with the oath to save our life, but we're taking a second oath to obligate us, to highlight that we didn't have to do it, but we're doing it anyway. Does this help at all? Zach, does this help at all?
Yeah, it did, but I have another interpretation. I was thinking about it.
Yes.
I think the spies are real professionals.
Yes.
When they left her, they started thinking, what if she break the oath? What if she gets scared and think that who knows those people? They may kill everybody anyway, and besides, it's my people. I have to do so. So, and for them, the ultimate goal is their mission. They have to be sure that nobody will tell that they went there. So how can they screw a little bit more? And they came up with this manipulation technique that I think is brilliant. They show this woman that even legally we don't obligated to do anything. But because we love you, you love us, and we are so good people, this is sacred. Now we are telling you again. I mean, no human after this speech, after this trick, would be able to go and betray them.
Correct. I could agree that is highlighting. You could say they're manipulating when they realize that she values loyalty. They're showing her how loyal we are. I would agree that it could be only manipulation, but when you read later, even before you go to the rabbis, they certainly went and they saved her and her family. And the verse says that they allowed her family to live amongst the Jewish people until this very day. To the extent that some people think, the modern scholars think, that actually it was a terrible. The modern scholars want to read this verse and say this was a flop. They were not supposed to save her, because the big problem with the book of Joshua is that the underlying problem of the book of Joshua is that Joshua did not eradicate all the inhabitants, the natives from the land, and that caused a lot of problems in the future. So some people, the sages don't say this, but the modern scholars, not the religious scholars, the modern scholars say, they read the story and say it was a debacle. They should not have saved Rachav, because that represents that the Jews were too soft and they were not willing to get rid of the natives. And that was the cause of the next 400 years of battles in the land. So all I'm trying to say is that it's clear in the verses. I don't necessarily agree with that interpretation, but it's clear in the verses that the Jewish people certainly did not only save her family. Like I said, some people say in those regions, families probably hundreds of people, right? But the bottom line is that the Jewish people were loyal to her. They didn't have to. Now, if you want to say it's a weakness, you want to say it's a strength, you want to say it's both, fine. But yes, but your point is well taken, that they are when they're giving her the speech, they're also in psychological warfare, and they're also influencing her at the time. I agree. I agree, but nonetheless, the facts speak for themselves that they did indeed save her and her family.
I agree. I take back manipulation, and I also want to remind something that you told us. When there are judges and there are witnesses, at some point somebody is asked to swear by God.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing. He already sworn, but it means he increases the level of commitment, and so that's what they're doing to her. They're showing it's much higher level, and because they went into this higher level, they really have to save her.
Right.
But you're right. They have no choice either.
Right. No, but I agree with you that part of giving her the speech, it could be part of that is making sure that in other words, creating that emotional bond between the I don't know what the word I would call her, but when you read about I read a little bit about the work of the Mossad in Israel, and it's really about psychology, how you interact with your informers. It's really you really have to connect. There's some manipulation, of course, but you have to show the person that you care about them. And if you can't convince them that you care about them, you won't be successful, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
And this could be part of it, but all I'm saying is it's not all of it.
Right.
Okay, now so we spoke practical, we spoke a little legal, we spoke a little more sort of the culture. We want to show the culture of the values of loyalty, and maybe that's what attracted Rachav to the Jewish people, and that's why the story is trying to highlight the loyalty. But then you can even get something more spiritual, and that will probably be the last thing we'll talk about, and that is that certainly if you're reading it from the rabbis, it's very interesting. They come to Israel. The first thing that happens is they meet the harlot and they save the harlot. In a way, what they're doing is they're on an individual scale, but maybe also on a spiritual scale, they're sort of correcting and rectifying this harlot. And that's a symbol for Israel at the time, was a place and a culture that was not moral, but with the Jewish people, because the Torah says, when Moshe in Leviticus tells the Jewish people, don't learn from the culture of Egypt, don't learn from the culture of Canaan. Those two cultures were considered morally deprived. The Jewish people entering the land of Israel, the land of Canaan, which had a depraved culture, the point was to elevate it spiritually. And maybe this story is representing the fact that we're elevating it spiritually. Here we have a person who was a harlot. Now, certainly from the rabbinic reading, she is elevated to become the matriarch of the family of prophets. Now, why is this interesting? Because the opening, in other words, where do you get support for this? If you look at the opening phrase of the story, Joshua, son of Nun, sent 2 men out of Shittim. This is very interesting. Where is Shittim? Well, where are the Jewish people now? The Jewish people right now there's the Jordan, they're at the bank of the Jordan River. They are east of the Jordan in modern day Jordan. They're east of the Jordan in a place that the Torah refers to many times as Arvot Moab, the plains of Moab. We almost never refer to that place as Shittim. Yet in this story, we refer to that place. Joshua sends spies from the Shittim. What is Shittim? Where else do we refer to that place, Shittim? So if you look back to the 4th book of the Torah, we read that at Shittim, there was a terrible moral debacle. What happened? The Jewish men sin with the daughters of Moab. So there's adultery taking place. The Jews are seduced by the local girls. And that was a terrible sin, and people die. And that's the story, the end of Parshas Balak, toward the end of the 4th book. So we're evoking that name. Joshua ben Nun, Joshua the son of Nun, sends people from Shittim. What is Shittim? The place where the Jewish people sinned with adultery. And what happens at the end of the story? The story is a story of correction, where Rachav ultimately comes back within the Jewish people. So mentioning the place where they're from may also have a spiritual meaning of we're mentioning where the Jewish people are coming from and how we're transforming. We're seeking to transform the culture, the culture of the land, But this person, this Rachav person, is the symbolism of that transformation. So that is one way of reading it. There are other ways of reading it, but that's the story in short for this morning. I hope this was interesting. Any other comments or questions, please share. And otherwise, tomorrow we'll come back and we'll read about the biblical story, the story of Moshe sending the spies, which didn't turn out as great, but that's for tomorrow.
Does the name Rachav imply anything?
Yeah, Rachav literally means breadth. Rachav, wide. Some people say that is really what's happening here. The danger of the land of Israel, in other words, when the people were in the desert, they were just trying to survive. When you're trying to survive, you're not as susceptible to being seduced because you're not thinking about pleasures, you're thinking about survival. When they came to Shittim, east of the Jordan, and when they come into the land of Israel is described as Eretz Tovah Chava, a good and broad land, right? So you're not in survival mode. There's pleasure. There is expanses. There's potential. So that is where there's a danger for sin. And then you have to look at that, and then you have to take that potential for expansiveness and direct it to positivity. Because if you don't, then that desire for pleasure, that desire to expand, that desire to remove limitation and remove discipline could result in sin. So that's where you have to be on call. In other words, you have to be careful to channel that expansiveness in the right way. And that's what we're saying. We're saying what she represents is that breadth. Now, is that breadth good or bad? Well, it could be Rachav the harlot, or it could be Rachav who then becomes and marries Joshua, right? So that expansiveness, like everything else in Judaism, is not necessarily good or bad. It's the question of how it's used.
Yeah, and it's kind of in line with the whole idea of this the whole story, because it beautifully shows the correction of the story of the spies, the original story where the spies they understood the mission wrong. Right. They went to spy whether the land can be conquered. Right. And those spies specifically, because Joshua was there, he specifically says, in secret, because the mission is to actually find out if they're afraid or not. And that's because on the original story, they were thinking the grasshoppers or whatever. So they were,
that's a good point.
Really, the Jews were afraid.
That's a good point. You see, the tables flip. When it came to the previous story, the Jews were afraid. Here they come back and they say, no, the enemy is afraid.
Right? And the other moral of the story is also very beautiful, because that's the overall mission of Jewish people, to transform, yes, to inspire, and to lead to the
and everything could be elevated. That's the beauty. We're not gonna, you could have written a story about how terrible Rachav is. So the story doesn't really spell it out. But think from the rabbinic perspective, right? You could imagine rabbinic interpretation, look how terrible this person is, right? She's not loyal to anybody. But look what the rabbis did with this story, and what they did with her figure, her personality. And we say that she's one of the greatest women in Judaism, and in the sense that she creates that lineage, which is it's just a fascinating thing. And you see how the rabbis see the story and see the purpose of entering Israel as a purpose of transformation of the negative culture to a holy culture.
Yeah, that's very optimistic. Gives us hope that we can succeed in our mission.
I think so.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful day, everybody, and only good news.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Wonderful
Rabbi,
day.
have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.